Welcome back to Sunday Vibes 1 and we are back in the Phoenix pub by Oxford Circus. Patrick Van Straten is back in the hot seat. Zach Jalab also joins us today. As you can see from the title, it's a Tottenham Hotspur related topic, but bear with us. We know you guys at home don't always love Tottenham Hotspur, but we did put a poll out, didn't we? Thousands of people got involved and you voted for us to do another in-depth How to Fix. You guys seem to really love it on was it 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, Chelsea.
We did Chelsea, where one of us acted as a kind of owner,
and
Todd. Two sporting directors were bringing players and managers to the table, a bit like an old school podcast we used to do. So today we're doing the same with Tottenham Hotspur.
Not Chelsea.
They
do still need to be fixed.
Yeah, they do still need to be fixed.
See.
And you are playing Daniel Levy today.
I am Mr. Levy. You guys are going to be my Paraticis. Arguably,
well, not anymore.
Obviously,
going to prison.
Well, exactly. We got to make some replacements, and so I've hired Patrick Van Straten and Joe Tomlinson to be my advisors.
Is being in charge of Tottenham
advisors.
why you're a little bit out of sorts today? I feel like you're a little bit stressed, and it's because of your new role in charge of the worst club in London.
Slightly, and also because the taxi driver today took just a slow. He was going, what way do we go? And I was like, I don't know, mate. You're meant to know this.
So that's not the area of my expertise.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So look, Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. There are lots of clubs that are kind of a mess, and Tottenham is one of the big ones. Currently, fan outcry. They're screaming for me out at every game, guys. They're screaming Levy out. And so we need to try and change things. I want them to like me. And we need
very
to try
much
and
like
change
Zach
things.
wants to be liked.
But he is being very Daniel Levy as well. Yeah. Where he's like, we need a proven winner. And I want everyone to like me.
Yes. And so, look, we need to put some things in place right now. I think if we're being realistic, because obviously this is more of a summer job, we currently are in 5th place in the league. Champions League football does look like it's kind of escaping us, if we're going to be deadly honest. So I'm going to say we're in the Europa League at this point, if we're putting our money where our mouth is. Obviously, we've got slight issues in terms of some of the players we want to be selling. The big one in Harry Kane, I think that's a talking point we need to be its own thing, is about Harry Kane. What are we doing with him? How are we going to convince him to stay if we want him to stay? How much are we going to sell him for if we want to sell him? Manager, look. Conte's gone. Conte's gone. It is a problem for us. How are we going to be doing this? Are we going to be sticking with a 3 at the back? Are we going to be going for another winning manager like we have previously with Jose Mourinho, Conte, because that went really well? Or are we looking towards the future and do we want someone more for the long term, 3 to 4 years, who might want Harry Kane, might not want Harry Kane? How is this all going to get in? Because, yes, I think that we should start off with the manager.
Okay, I agree.
Actually, no, I don't think it should be the manager.
It's the basis.
No, I think it should be Harry Kane.
No, I think it should be the manager. Because the manager, I think, should be the guy that creates a side, and whether or not Harry Kane fits into that side can come off the back of which manager is selected.
Okay. Joe Tomlinson, I'm coming to you. You've done your research.
Look,
who have you proposed
Daniel,
for me?
I wasn't happy with you, mate. I'm not
many people
lie. I'm not happy with you. I think you should have appointed Pochettino straight away. If we're now in this stage, I think Tottenham Hotspur probably would have got a Champions League spot if they'd have got Pochettino. I said on previous shows that I didn't think it was the right fit, but the more this season goes, the more obvious it looks like they should have just appointed Pochettino and, eaten their pride a little bit. But I'm not suggesting Pochettino.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting Pochettino. I think now the fact that
What's changed?
Well, I just think the fact that he's been available this whole time and you've chosen not to go with him kind of suggests that something isn't fitting there, don't want to go back. Maybe there's a bit of tension between the two. I don't know, but I just don't think it should be going back to Poch. Now you've waited this long. So I'm suggesting Ruben Amorim.
Okay.
I think Ruben Amorim's a really nice fit for this role. I think back to when Tottenham were at their flying best under Pochettino, and it was under a young, exciting coach who was looking to build a project full of young players. I look at the current setup of this Tottenham squad, which is set up for a 3 at the back system, which obviously Ruben Amorim plays, and I know that Tottenham Hotspur fans, quite a lot of them want to move to a back 4, but I think you need to be realistic here. Ruben Amorim's back 3 is very different to an Antonio Conte, Jose Mourinho back 3, which is classically quite low blocky, can be quite a 5, 2 deep-lying midfielders in front of him. Ruben Amorim, much more progressive, much more of a 3 at the back with 2 extremely high wing-backs, much higher press, love to keep hold of the ball. He's one of the most exciting young managers in Europe. He's still only 38. I think his rise to the top of the game has been absolutely exceptional. When you think he was in Serie C as early as 2018, not Serie C, sorry, the third tier of Portuguese football, whatever that is called, not Serie C, Liga C or whatever. Third tier in 2018, his rise to Sporting is absolutely astronomical.
Yeah.
And obviously picking up their first league title in 20 odd years, 3 cups under his belt already, playing some of the most attractive football across Europe. And also, I look at the Tottenham defensive structure this year, 14th for goals conceded. It's not looking good, bruv. It's 14th for goals conceded. And that Sporting defence, when he first came in, was the best in Europe statistically by expected goals against. No other team in Europe's top 7 league could match it. So I think he can not only build a defence, he can build a competent, attractive style of football. He's a young, exciting manager. And I think if you get him now, you get him before one of the big boys. Because I do think one of the big boys is eventually going to go for Ruben Amorim.
Supposedly, across the other side of London, Chelsea had spoke to him and ruled him out now of their next job.
The issue is the potential buyout clause as well. He did have a big buyout clause, 22 million euros, I think, because let's not forget Sporting. After he'd been at Braga for 13 games, paid 10 million euros to get him out. So they wanted their money back. They doubled it with the original release clause. That release clause has dropped down to about 10 million euros now. So Sporting are going to be getting their money back. It's not cheap, but I think it's worth it.
My slight worry is obviously in the summer just gone.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of money on players that are older.
Yeah.
Whether that is wages. Yeah. Okay.
Don't blame us.
All right. Oh, Paratici had
nothing.
Paratici had a hand in it as well. I've got Scott Munning as well now.
And that's fine. But
Fingers in all the criminal ties.
Do we think that players like Heung-min Son, Harry Kane being the big one, Perisic, these guys are going to be what? Is he going to want to? I mean, Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, if he has them for sure. But seems like a guy who wants to have a young side that he can build around. And whilst we do have
that's
players
what we should be doing,
like
mate.
that on loan,
just because you the bed in the last 12 months doesn't mean that we should continue to the bed and just appoint old managers that want old players.
And I don't think as well that like what Amorim has worked with up until now is the only kind of player he can work with. Like, I mean, he's done that at Sporting because Sporting have less money than their 2 rivals, but they have a really good academy. And so one of the ways to improve them as a side is to get undervalued talent and try and build on the youngsters they've got. I don't think that if you take that guy to Spurs and you're like, here's 10 times the salary you were making at Sporting, here's a much bigger transfer budget, and here is, okay, Heung-min Son is in decline, but it wouldn't surprise me if actually he had a much better season next year than he's had this year. Here's a guy who has been a world-class player for the last 5 years. I'm pretty certain he'll be like, that's fine. I've been working with players who are interesting, let's say, but considerably more limited than what he would have at Tottenham Hotspur. So I don't think that's an issue. Like, you want somebody who can continue to get the best out of those veterans while developing youngsters. There are plenty of youngsters in this squad for him to do it with. There's Adoji, there's Sarr, there's Spence, and Porro as well. Like, Romero's still relatively young as centre-backs go. Like, and probably you're going to get a younger goalkeeper in. Like, there are lots of players here who need to be developed. And I think that actually... I don't necessarily agree that it has to be Amorim, but I do agree with the profile of manager.
Okay. Well, Pat, who is your choice? I like it, Joe. I like it. I think it's a very good case put forward.
I'm less bothered by the individual than I am by the profile, as I'm saying. So I think there are broadly 2 kinds of managers. There's the manager who comes in and he's like a motivator. He gets the team all pulling in the same direction, you know, and he'll do a little. Actually, it's not Amorim. Like, that's a guy who they get your team playing to the level of the squad if the team's currently playing below. So an example of that would be Ancelotti, who can also do some interesting tactical stuff, but mostly that kind of thing. Luis Enrique is this kind of manager. Unai Emery is this kind of manager. Whereas I think what you want if you're Tottenham is somebody who's more of an overachiever. So somebody who can maybe make the team be more than the sum of their parts. So that's something Nagelsmann has been historically, something Potter's been at certain stages, something De Zerbi's doing right now. And I think more of these kind of young, tactically interesting coaches fit that mould. So I think Amorim would make a lot of sense in that way. And another guy I think would be really interesting is Thomas Frank. I think Thomas Frank, I don't know what his buyout would be, but I think he's really worth a look because obviously he's now experienced in the Premier League. He played possession, ball dominant football in the Championship with a really attractive side. And then when he came up to the Premier League, often we see those teams struggle because they have all the ball and suddenly they get to a division where you cannot keep all the ball against much better sides. So what do? Well, Brentford, over the course of about a year, managed to adjust so that they can play really effective counter-attacking football. They can play 3 at the back. They can play 4 at the back. They can play the long ball, or they can pass through you. I think that we'd all agree that they're a really technically adept side, but they also are not afraid at all of saying, we go long to Tony and Tony gets knockdowns to Mbeumo, and that's how we play. I think they're just a really smart, flexible team with smart, flexible players. And I think that particularly when you look at, say, the midfield talent, the wing-back talent of Spurs, I think having a manager who is able to make adjustments to suit people's individual strengths and weaknesses is a good thing. I think Amorim would also be absolutely fine. But my broad strategy is go for somebody like this. If you go and get Luis Enrique, then I really like Luis Enrique. But if your squad's the 5th best in the league, 5th best in the league is about the best you're going to do. Whereas, Nagelsmann we saw overperform at Hoffenheim, and Potter overperformed at Brighton. You look at the talent they were working with, and some of those players were great, but some of them were nothing. You need somebody who can give you a little bit more, because Spurs are never going to be one of the 4 richest sides in the league. Okay. They're almost certainly never going to have one of the 4 best squads. But I definitely agree, no Pochettino. Because I think when things went wrong for Spurs was when Pochettino went from being coach to being manager. They called him the manager, and they sidelined a load of their recruitment guys.
Yes.
And the squad got worse. And yeah, we want a pay rise. I do think that was a real problem for them.
Yeah.
Because now they've been operating on the whims of different managers.
What I'm going to say here, in favour of Ruben Amorim as well, I love Thomas Frank, fantastic coach. But Ruben Amorim, trophy winner.
Does he speak English?
European football. Yeah, I think he does.
He's
played European football.
His fashion sense is half decent as well.
Trophy winner. We talk about Thomas Frank at Brentford, sensational, obviously. 13 games at Braga, 10 wins. First cup. Yeah. How many cups has Thomas Frank got in the bag?
Big time.
I like it. I think as well, when I am thinking long term, both of them fit that mould.
They're very similar shouts, I'd say.
And especially when we think we could have them for a long time before maybe a Barcelona or a big boy club, even though we want to be that level as well, and hopefully they'll help us get to that level, maybe come sniffing around a little bit like what happened with Pochettino at times. I'm also thinking about...
Get off the fence, mate.
Oh my God, get a move on, Dan.
I would like to go with...
We're going to get relegated while you're doing this, while you're making this choice.
This is why Tottenham struggle, because they can't make decisions.
They're 2 very good options. That's the thing. They're 2 very good options that are similar in ways. But I would like to go with...
Ruben Amorim.
Thomas Frank.
Okay.
Yes.
Am I surprised? Are the comments surprised? No, they're not. This is
I think the thing that's edged it for me
is his Premier League experience.
It is.
Yeah,
it is his Premier League experience.
He's also he's really a good communicator.
He is.
Which I think is genuinely helpful if you have like a rough ride in the early stages.
When you watch him in like press conferences, we saw what kind of happened with Potter at times and Chelsea in press conferences where fans turn very quickly. I think something we need to focus on this manager getting on with the fans.
And I'm going to just read out a quote here from the head of recruitment at Braga about Ruben Amorim.
Huge figure in football.
Well, no, but this is you're taking the Premier League into account here. It brings everyone at the club together. His main skill is communications.
In Portuguese.
Yeah, I don't have a massive issue.
But I do think that is part of it, because what I do like, you saw, for example, I think at the beginning of Ten Hag's time at Man United, for a Dutchman, he was he was not as confident in English as he'd like.
Can we just throw this in here? The last decision Daniel Levy made based on not appointing a manager because he couldn't speak excellent, perfect English was the decision not to hire to Eric.
Was it about the English?
I think it was according to reports, it was heavily involved, wasn't it?
Well, I don't think that's unreasonable though, because it has been some time since then where clearly Ten Hag knew that his next stop was going to be the Premier League.
Yeah.
I just do. You look at the way that somebody like, I guess we always use him as an example at the moment, but Arteta was able to hold on to his job during some horrible form, largely because when he spoke, people sort of felt like they believed him, even though it defied the evidence of what they were seeing on the pitch. And that does help a lot. And you're absolutely right. Like, I think you've probably done this as well. But the transfers I've picked here, to an extent, are geared around how do we maintain a good relationship with the fans through a period of upheaval.
Okay. I agree.
And look, if Frank says no, I think Amorim is
it's fine, man. Go with Frank. When Amorim's at Real Madrid in 3 years' time, and you're going, we could have signed him, but we didn't like him because he didn't speak English. Then we're back to going.
There's no way he's going around with it.
Okay, now the next thing we need to talk about, and very much I think with these managerial hires, if it was Amorim or even if it's Thomas Frank, it kind of feels like he's going to be pushing away is what are we doing with Harry Kane?
Yeah.
Obviously, this is about next season. His contract ends at the end of the 2024 season, the summer of 2024. I feel like with these managers, and when I've got Manchester United knocking at the door saying, here's £100 million, Bayern Munich also sniffing around, PSG, it's going to be tough to convince Harry, I think, right now, of signing a new deal. The most amount of money that I can cash in on right now is going to be the summer. Pat, I'd like to know what you're doing with him.
Obviously, it depends on the money that's available. Below a certain level, I'll keep Kane. Because
what's the level?
That's the thing. I think that if somebody's offering
90?
sub 60, then I'll say no.
Okay.
If they're offering over 60, I'd probably think about it, because with wages and stuff, I just think it's, and it depending what's available in the market and how much money we've got in our transfer kitty too. Okay. I just think at this point, there's almost nobody in the squad who's untouchable for me. I think I want to keep Romero, and I want to keep Kulusevski more than anyone. Kulusevski is my absolute top pick in the squad right now.
Bentancur too for me.
Yeah, but with his injury, I think if somebody said, we'll give you 40 million for an injured Bentancur, you'd be like, okay, that sounds great. And it's not like the midfield's weak without him, because, you know, you look at that midfield and you're still like Bissouma, Højbjerg, Sarr coming through, Skip, who's a perfectly reasonable contributor. I'm going to add to the midfield too. So I'm probably going to sell Kane. I mean, certainly if you can get 9 figures for him, that's an absolute like automatic yes. And Spurs should not play hardball too much on this. They need to get this done early in the summer so they can nail their targets.
I totally agree.
Okay, so you're in agreement as well.
Yeah,
of selling
absolutely.
Harry Kane.
I think that now is the time. I think not only because his contract's up and because he's being offered big money, but because it's just a story and a narrative that has hung around the club for too long now. I feel like the club need to move on, start building in a new direction. And, you know, we can look at his goal scoring numbers and they are amazing. He's probably the best all-round striker in the league, maybe the second best footballer in the league behind KDB. Obviously, Haaland as a poacher, undeniably the best striker in the league right now. But, you know, with his link-up play, his ability to play the ball through the lines, his progressive pass numbers, Kane is almost irreplaceable. But I think his goal-scoring exploits, 23 goals, we can potentially find in some smart acquisitions and some improved form from Heung-min Son. So if we got £90 million, £100 million, I agree with that.
Richarlison here as well, spent 60 million on
exactly.
In the summer. And scored a goal.
And Son, in a bad season, is still going to end up with probably like 12, 15 goal involvements. But this is the thing. You look at Arsenal this season. Arsenal are top of the league. Arsenal are going to, I think, if Gabby Jesus gets one more goal, Arsenal have 4 players with over 10 goals in the league. But their top scorer is Martinelli on 14. Now, Martinelli might end up closer to 20. But what that shows is that you can be competitive in this league by sharing goals around.
Look at City.
And exactly. And I do think it's really important that Spurs become less Kane reliant. Even if you think they should keep Kane. And to be honest, as I've said, I'm happy to keep him if need be. You have to make the team less fragile. You have to make them not in this situation where, okay, Kane's injured this year, Son's injured this year, we're in serious trouble. It has to be a situation where the team can still put out a decent level of performance. Again, to bring it back to Arsenal or Man United for that matter. Okay, Rashford's been good, but Rashford's got like 14 league goals. It's not insane, you know. But they've still been competitive, even though Weghorst gives them kind of nothing up front. Arsenal went without their big £50 million striker signing for half the season and have been okay. Spurs need to get themselves into that zone.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. So Kane would sell. Sorry, just some other sales here, just to top up the budget. I think.
Go ahead.
Some tap-ins. I would sell Lloris. Contract's up in 2024.
Sure, fine.
I think it's probably time to move on.
I bet his wages are big.
Davinson Sanchez, who I think we should potentially just discuss a little bit. I thought some of the booing and the treatment of Davinson Sanchez was pretty borderline disgraceful at the weekend. I know he was playing badly, but to boo your own player in that fashion, it's just a mess. I think he needs to be sold, though. Eric Dyer, I would sell. His contract's also up in 2024.
A big key player for us.
Yeah, but to what extent? To what extent has he been a key player?
For sure.
Joe Rodon.
I
would probably sell. You know, he's actually been alright at Rennes, I think.
The experience.
Yeah. Reguilon, I would sell. Don't think there's a need for him there. 4 starts at Atletico Madrid, and I think you probably get a small fee off a Spanish side. Sessegnon, I would sell. They've got 4 left wing backs on the books because obviously Adoji at Udinese, who's actually having a sensational season.
Who I think will be starting. He'll have to start for them next year.
So you don't need 4. So I'd get rid of Reguilon and Sessegnon. In the midfield, Winks. You know, under contract to 2025.
Big time.
Lo Celso and Ndombele at this stage, although they can contribute to the side.
But I think he'll go.
I don't think it's going to work.
And Ndombele will go permanently.
I totally agree. Like,
It's not quite worked out at Napoli for him, though.
He's been pretty good.
He's been okay, but he's only started 6 Serie A games.
But he's been good enough that I think they'll probably keep him, or he'll go to another
And Lo
Italian side.
Celso's actually been alright at Villarreal, but
I
it's
haven't
again,
watched
it's
him
only
myself.
10 starts this season, and it's more injury problems. It's 10 separate injuries since he signed for Spurs.
Boy.
Not good enough injury record, and then Kane. So I've kind of topped it up.
What
to
about Mora?
Is that a contract?
Okay, good.
Gone for it
Anyway.
already.
So I'm up to
Thank
about
God.
150 million pounds worth of sales, maybe a little bit more if you're being.
Is that
kind
on
with
top
some
of the budget
players.
that I'm giving you, or is that?
That's just sales.
Okay,
100
so
million on
Harry-
Kane,
and
and
obviously
then
Harry Kane
the
brings a
other
lot, yeah.
7 or 8 players totaling about 50
Okay.
mil.
It does feel
Yeah.
like the only time I'm ever going to sell Kane is if I'm getting 100 million, and so that is what.
Well, I think
I've told you to sell it.
reported.
But I think if they get offered like 80 mil and they don't take it, I think they will. Maybe fans will be delighted. They'll be like, "We
Yeah.
can't sell Kane. We'll be without
To
him."
be
But in
fair-
2 years' time, you'll find out.
I think a lot of fans, if Kane left, I think a lot of fans wouldn't begrudge him. I don't think they'd blame us.
No.
It's the
either for letting
Aubameyang
him go.
situation again.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay then. All right. I'm happy to say you've got 150 from those transfers. Interesting to see how much we get for Eric Dyer.
How much are you
that's for
putting
sure. Look, guys.
Because we've seen the stadium, we've seen the training ground, we've seen the go-kart and cap for F1, we've seen the NFL, we've seen Beyonce there.
Relayed the golf course as
So
well.
how
on the training
much
pitch.
money are we getting?
On top of the 150 million pounds that you guys have generated from sales? Well done. Well done.
This is gonna be. Like
I'm going to be giving you an extra 100 million pounds.
Oh, that's fine. I don't even need that.
Okay.
So you have 250 million pounds, and if you bring back change, pay rises. Pay rises.
I'm not
I'm
going to
bring back 250 million pounds worth of change.
I'm not going to be bringing back any change.
Okay.
I'm hoping we've kind of come up with, because me and Pat haven't seen the names
Yeah.
we've put forward, so we're hoping we've come
Well,
up with
let's
similar
first
roles.
let's start with at the very back, goalkeeper.
It's the least interesting position.
But we've got to talk about it.
I don't care too much about this one. I think if you can get someone like David Raya in, then do
That's
it.
who I've gone for.
I think if you can get David Raya, then do it. And
Yeah.
if we've got 250 million, that's fine. I found this one quite hard to do because I just think it's really hard to gauge, certainly from the stats and without watching games, and even from watching games if they don't play that style, to know whether a keeper can play out from the back.
Well, you've got Thomas Frank coming through the door, so do you want
Yeah.
to bring David Raya with you, given that he's got a
How
year
much
left
are you
on his-
costing David
He's got a
Raya?
year
So
left on his contract.
What are you rating his price
I've
at?
put 25 million pounds.
If we can get David Raya for 25 mil, I'm absolutely taking that, because otherwise I'm looking here at like Alban Lafont or something, and like I like the player, but he's a really good shot stopper. No idea whether he can do it for us with his feet.
Yeah.
I think this is a position
And we know
you
about
can
David
fix
Raya's
for 10
distribution.
years.
No,
We know about
I
David
agree that
Raya's
I think
distribution.
Raya's distribution. I think 25 mil is
Well, he's a
cheap.
year out of contract. He's rejected 2 contract offers.
For sure,
So
but
he's
so-
very publicly come out and said, I'm out.
But
I
the
don't
club
want to
have
be
come
here.
out before and said they want 40 million.
Yeah, but that's absolutely fine. The club will come out. They're not going to come out and say, we want 10 million pounds for him, are they? They're going to come out and say an over-the-top amount. Nobody's going to pay 40 million pounds for him if the club are coming out and saying, we want 40 million pounds for him.
And you're in a rare situation where you can actually go and have a few negotiations running at the same time and play a little bit of hardball.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can go and talk to Brentford for Raya, you can talk to Brighton for Sanchez, and you can talk to United for Henderson, and you can just have these conversations and just not worry about it too much, because worst comes to worst, you go to Liga and you drop like 10 million on Alban Lafont or someone like that, and it's not that big a concern.
There is also the possibility as well of Leeds getting relegated. Melly as an option as well, somebody who is
Sure.
highly rated. I like Raya.
Well, you've taken Frank, so Raya seems
I like
an actual fit.
Raya. I'm going to put it in at 32 million.
Okay.
Highly specific.
32 mil.
It's very specific.
Good negotiation from you, Mr. Levy.
Yeah.
25 mil, I'll give you 32.
Yeah, really good.
I just don't think, honestly, especially when Chelsea are looking for a goalkeeper, like Raya is the number one goalkeeper everyone's going to be after, is where I'm looking at. If we want
we'll
him.
see.
He's not actually as young as he
27,
should be. Yeah,
27,
it's not
yeah. But
ideal.
for a goalkeeper,
but you're
that's
probably going to
5
get.
years.
It's probably going to get. Yeah, exactly. You're going to get at least.
And with the
I
way
think,
that
6
supposedly
years
we
out.
want to play our football, and because goodness gracious, Hugo Lloris can't do it to save his
Yeah.
life, to pass with his feet. I'm happy with that. Raya is in the squad. Cheers, Brentford, for your manager and
Yeah,
your
so we're now becoming Brentford. This is why we should have gone for Amorim. Okay, how many centre-backs have you got? Because I've got 2.
So
I
we've
don't
sold
know.
Eric Dyer and Sanchez.
In my opinion.
Got 2 centre backs out.
Longley's
I'm-
gone back.
But
Longley's gone back
I'm
to
happy to
Barcelona.
keep any of those.
Okay.
I'm not going to keep all of them.
You don't want him starting. do you?
Yeah, but I think you're in a position where, like, it depends if you're going to play
So
three
who-
at the back. Sanchez has had his best football for Spurs in the middle of a three at the back.
No,
and he's
Sanchez
rarely been able to
can't
do that again.
anymore in that back.
Sure,
three.
that's fine, but like, you cannot just move on an entire defence in the summer.
So right now,
I'm keeping
our
Cuti Romero as
starting
part of the back three.
Yeah, Christian
and then I've got two
Romero
That's it.
is our right centre back.
That's a lot of turnover, especially with the Doji coming in.
It's
as well.
needed. Longley, not good
I
enough.
agree, but that's a really, really big kind of culture change in one.
It's got to be done.
I'm
This is
fine
why
with it.
I was
I'm fine
wondering
with
about
it.
Eric Dyer as to whether are we going to get enough money for him.
Yeah, I'd probably
to
keep.
make it
I would
worth-
keep Eric Dyer just from the point of view of like
Then you're going to let him
homegrown
leave
is
for free,
fine.
yeah?
Yeah,
Honestly, yeah.
yeah. I don't think the money you're going to get for Dyer is like a huge.
And I don't
loss.
mind you bringing in two centre backs. Like I don't think you get more than.
Okay, first up,
15
let's just
mil
get straight
Dyer?
into it then. I'm bringing in Bastoni. That move should have happened last summer, for sure. You know, we're looking at an Inter Milan setup that are going to massively overhaul in the summer.
Yeah.
Probably 8 players are going to leave. Lukaku's going to go back on loan. They owe 275 million euros in debt repayments by the end of the summer because of that Oak Tree capital loan that was taken out against COVID. They have to sell players, and 8 of the players are out of contract. So where are their other sellable assets? You look at the squad. Bastoni is one of the few. The contract situation between him and the club hasn't come to fruition. He hasn't signed a new contract as of yet. It's out of contract in 2024. There's been negotiations in the past between Bastoni and Inter Milan. We're looking at an incredible ball progressor, somebody who carries into the midfield exceptionally well. I think by progressive carries, he's in the top 2 or 3% of central defenders in Europe. A really big aerial threat. He's 6'3", 6'4". Reminds me a little bit of a Sven Botman in the way he steps out of the line and tackles players early. And he's left-footed, and they need a left-footed, left-sided centre-back.
That's been my priority, a left footer.
Okay.
I would consider Longley as well on a permanent.
No.
I'd consider it. It depends what the price is.
No.
I like the shout.
I mean,
like the shout.
let's face it, Inter Milan have got the 6th best defence by expected goals against in Serie A, and I think the goalkeepers, Onana and Handanovic, are 32nd and 33rd.
And they could go to a Champions League final.
And yeah, exactly. It does feel like for Inter Milan that after this season, it kind of for a lot of the players, it might be the end of the era. Like they've obviously won
Yes,
the
it's
Scudetto,
100% the end of an era.
I'll get to the semi-final, possibly the final of the Champions League.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got Skriniar leaving. There's loads of players
Yeah.
leaving.
I like the option. Well, I want to hear the others as well. I want to hear the others, and then we can decide.
I think that before anything, I think you do have a look at the free transfer market. So I'd think about that in midfield as well. You know, I'd go and have a conversation with someone like Yuri Tielemans. Just have a conversation and see like what the situation would be. Defense, we've talked about him before, but I think Evan Ndika is the guy that you have to go for here. Perfect age. I think Spurs should be targeting young players, but not 18, 19 young, 22 to 24 young. Because those are guys who are not going to be completely overawed coming into kind of like adult man's football, but are young enough that you can get half a decade of growth out of them. And I think Ndika is an interesting guy. He's 6'4", he's left-footed, he's 23, he's experienced in a top league in a pressing side. And I think that if a bigger side than Spurs had made an offer to him by now, he'd be snapped up.
Well, there are rumours he's in talks with Barcelona.
But I think that if they'd already made the offer, I think he'd have already signed a deal. So I do think he's still available. And I think that gives Spurs a window, because if all the bigger clubs are kind of umming and ahhing about him, and Spurs come in and they're like, we really want you, we're going to give you a bigger wage than you'd get elsewhere, which still won't be that big, I don't think. We really want to put our faith in you, and you're going to be a nailed-on starter for us. I actually do think that's quite an attractive proposition, rather than, Liverpool are maybe thinking that they could make me their 4th or 5th choice centre-back. You say, no, there is a starting position for you on the left side of our defence, and you're going to be at the heart of our defence for the next 10 years, potentially. So I just think somebody's calling me. I think that he's a really interesting one to me, because I think, as Joe says, the left-footed side of it is extremely important. If you can't get him, I also think Southampton go down, have a little talk about Salisu, who is a reasonably good progressive passer, but is a really active defender. He's not your dream, but if you can get him cheaply because they've gone down, not too bad. It's really hard to kind of evaluate centre-backs because they play in different styles, but we know Ndika can cover a huge amount of ground in a pressing side. That to me is kind of one of the major elements here. He can play in a back 3, he can play in a back 4.
And he's going to Barcelona.
He's a really good defender.
Who's your other
other centre-back? I
please?
do think there's more than one needed at Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah,
The defensive record is
quite
harrowing this year. 14th best defensive record in the Premier League. Not good enough. My second defender, You know Mr. Daniel Levy. You know him very well. I'm going to read out a quote from one of your former managers, Mr. Daniel Levy. This is Jose Mourinho. I can tell you a story about one of the players. I spoke to him on FaceTime and wanted to buy him at Tottenham, but Tottenham didn't help me. This was then backed up by that club's president. He said Jose Mourinho wanted him badly in 2020, but Spurs refused to pay the 14 million euros.
14?
14. Who is that player?
Is this the guy at Napoli?
It's Kim Min-jae.
Yeah.
It's Kim Min-jae, who you refused to pay 14 million euros for, and now you're up against it. But he does have a £40 million release clause.
Yeah, but he's supposed to say yes.
He has to say yes, but he said yes in the past. He was keen to go.
He was.
Yeah, when he was playing in Turkey.
Yeah, true. True.
Not when he just won Serie A.
The issue is here you are battling probably Manchester United for his signature. Potentially Real Madrid are in talks with him for his signature as well. So it's not going to be an easy deal to get done. But can you promise him things that these clubs can't? Is he a definite starter at Real Madrid? Is he a guaranteed starter over Rafa Varane at Manchester United? I think that you can come in and say, we can play you every single minute of every single game. You're going to be living in London, paying you big wages. Is he going to achieve any more than he has this season at Napoli? Winning a Scudetto so comfortably.
That's a weird angle.
Well,
it's like, this guy's like won a Champions League at Real Madrid. It's just like, does he want to stay there, win more?
No, it's
like,
not.
Yeah.
It's not because at Napoli
You have to pay for round-the-clock protection if he leaves Napoli as well.
You're not earning the money you are at a club like Real Madrid.
Sure.
And there is also the lure of the Premier League.
I think Spurs actually will probably pay him better than Real
Do
Madrid
you think Kim Min-jae will still be at Napoli come the end of the summer?
Probably, unless like a Real Madrid comes in.
I don't think he will, and I think we should take an opportunity there to snaffle him up. He's still only 26, and we are talking about one of Europe's best centre-backs this season. So for me, it's a no-brainer. You've got to be in the conversation for him. Even if you get beaten out by Real Madrid, you hold your hands up and you go, do you know what? We got beaten by Real Madrid. It happens.
Okay. India's price tag?
He's free.
Free.
Nothing. Zero.
Bastoni's price tag?
I think, given the fact that they have to repay the €275 million loan, and he's got a season left, you're looking at probably 40 mil.
Yeah, I think probably not.
Okay. Now,
And Kim Min-jae, you're also looking at 40. Or are you going to say that we've lost out to United or Real Madrid and cowered out?
I think Real Madrid, they've got centre-backs coming out their ears at the moment at times. When they obviously, Rudiger isn't even starting, and obviously they got him in free in the summer.
Liverpool also interested.
Yeah, Liverpool won't have Champions League football.
Oh my
So
God,
we
come
might
on,
not.
man.
Look, if we can get India for free, that is the option, 100%. We can get him for free, and then
You can get two of these.
and then go and
Ndicka.
get Kim. I'd be over the moon.
So you're getting Kim and Ndicka to play. So what? You're having Kim on the right, and then
Probably
Romero in the
Kim in the
middle.
middle.
Kim in the middle of the back three,
Yeah,
flying out
India
the line.
on the
What,
left.
playing Romero on the right?
Where
I think
Romero
Kim-
plays now.
Yeah,
Oof.
yeah. It's
It's an oof
not
from
sure.
me.
It's an oof from me as well. Not sure
All right,
about
we can
that one.
change. You guys are my advisors.
You're
here.
the manager.
You're the one
Jesus.
You're the one that wanted to keep Eric Dyer and play him at the heart of the centre back.
No, we wanted to keep Eric Dyer because we didn't want to
No,
complete
you wanted to
overhaul
keep
straight away, and also we're going to have people to rotate in and out.
Yeah,
You have to keep him there if you get Amorim so that he can translate for the dressing room.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
we're
what
not,
he's there
so
for.
we're
Very
not
true.
taking Bastoni.
It's the fact that you can get in India for free. That's the big one.
How old's Bastoni?
24.
Yeah, I'd take Bastoni over Kim because I think he'll cost less, marginally.
And what, Bastoni in the middle?
I think
Play in the middle.
he's much more of a fit for the right hand side. I would say.
He's left-footed though.
Like, I don't think it matters. I mean, like, look.
And Romero.
I guess
in
you
the
don't want to
middle.
get Ndicka and Bastoni.
That's what I
Okay,
mean. I
okay,
don't think it's.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we go Kim and Ndicka. Sure.
Okay, fine. Let's move on to the midfield, shall we?
Wait,
Because
let me put it in.
there's a lot of deep line midfielders in this squad already, isn't there?
I've been to deep line midfield. I don't care.
I have
40.
also been deep line midfielder because you've got
There are three guys.
Basuma, Skit, Højbjerg, Bentancur can play in there if he needed. Sarr as well, who actually looked pretty tasty when he played in the San Siro.
And I just think getting a guy who can break up play in the midfield, if that's what you want, is not very hard to do.
Basuma.
Like, Palhinha came in and just did it. You know, I don't think it's a particularly skillful job, but he does it. He's fine.
Yeah.
I think he's highly overrated now, but he's good. He's good.
Who's your attacking midfielder?
Basuma can do that. My attacking midfielder, and this now we are getting to the point where my transfers are somewhat geared towards everyone losing their
Easy.
that Harry Kane's gone. But they're still good players. So these are the players that I think are actually good fits. Attacking mid, James Maddison. I think you kind of have to do this. If he's available for kind of 60 mil, which seems to be the going rate, it depends how high Newcastle want to push you.
And if Leicester go down?
I think they're going down. I think they're gone. But there may be better options out there, kind of, in the long term, like some players who will turn into better players than him. But he is very clearly a very good Premier League attacking midfielder. He could play in a midfield 3 as the more attacking element. He can also play in a 4-2-3-1, which I think quite a lot of the coaches that you're looking at will want to do. This season, he's having his best season by expected goals and assists in a Leicester side which is an absolute abomination. Like 15 goal involvements is very, very, very good. He's 26. He's homegrown. He's had his injury issues, but he's been in a pretty good state for a while now. And it is interesting to me that so many numbers have ticked up while the players around him have got worse.
Yeah.
That is very interesting, because if Vardy was on fire or Daka was on fire, then I would maybe take his numbers with a pinch of salt. But he has been the one who's dragged them through games where they've looked like producing absolutely nothing.
Slightly concerned about his injury record.
Sure.
And the fact that he's going Newcastle, surely? No?
Well, but we'll have to battle. We've got a lot of money left over at the moment.
I think Newcastle versus Spurs
It's a legit
battling
battle.
field is a legit battle, because Newcastle will have Champions League football.
Yeah.
Spurs may not, but I think Spurs can pay comparable wages, can offer him the chance to live in London. Like, I think lots of other factors come in there. But it kind of does depend who the next manager is, all those sorts of things. But I think Maddison is a guy who, if you're selling Kane, you're like, well, we are going and getting the sort of premium English central attacking midfielder available right now, a guy who Arsenal are interested in. I think that plays kind of well with the fans. And even just looking at the fact that
fans would love James Maddison.
You lose so much. You are going to lose not as much as everyone claims, but you're going to lose some creativity when Kane goes.
Yeah.
Definitely, mate.
Kulusevski, when he gets injured, lots of creativity. Nobody in that squad has more than 0.25 expected assists per 90. Maddison's at 0.31. He'd lead Spurs for key passes. If he was there with the performance he's giving it a relegation side this season, he'd lead Spurs for key passes. He'd rank second for passes into the final third and second for progressive passes. So he is actually doing a lot of the work of a deeper midfielder, as well as doing final third business. He can dribble a bit as well, and nobody at Spurs is a dribbler right now. There are 3 players at Spurs this season who are averaging over 1 completed dribble a game. Can you name them?
Son.
Kulusevski?
1.
Son.
No.
Bendica.
Yes.
Probably
Porro.
be somebody like Perisic or something.
It's Harry Kane.
Oh.
That is a bad situation.
Yeah.
Those are the guys who are beating a man once a game. You need somebody who has at least a little bit of trickiness in the midfield, especially if you do want to start competing with the elite sides. You need to be able to pass your way out. So I think that Maddison is just an easy signing to make, like an easy decision to make.
Oh, I like it.
I think fans would love that. And I've gone for a similar sort of idea, a progressive carrier, progressive dribbler, somebody who is very creative, a lot younger. I'm putting forward Michael Elise from Crystal Palace. I know that he's not a classic attacking midfielder in that role, but in the same way that Kulusevski on the right-hand side doesn't have an awful lot of cover around him, I think Michael Elise can offer an awful lot in a multitude of positions, and I do think he has a future as a potential 10 as well. I think he's that good technically in and around the box. He could easily shift into that 10 position and play in a side with Kulusevski and be just as creative as we've seen him be this season, because his creative numbers, we're talking about James Maddison being at 0.31 expected assists. We're looking at Michael Elise being around 0.3 as well. So not miles off.
But he's been in and out of the team, and he has been extremely streaky.
Yeah, he has been very streaky, and he does have
still very young,
some of my bigger problems with him kind of sit in his history.
Yeah.
We saw him leave. Was it Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City's academies? We've seen quite a few coaches in the past say we found him quite difficult to work with, quite difficult to coach. He seems to have found his feet at Reading and now at Crystal Palace more so. But I think it's almost helped him since Wilf Zaha's come out of the team, and you've seen him given a little bit more of a free role, and same could probably be said of Eberechi Eze, who I nearly put forward into this same role too. But I think if you get Michael Elise now, I find it hard to believe that Elise at some stage won't be playing for a club in the Champions League.
There was a long period, I remember, where people were saying he had that buyout clause for 30 million. Or
I think that's gone.
I think that's gone as well.
I think if that were true, he'd have gone.
He'd have gone. I like both shouts. I really, really do.
You could get both players here.
There is space to do both.
This is what I'm thinking about, possibly going for both here. I guess the slight worry with Elise is the streakiness
and the price of both, 60 million.
Well, and that if you do get Maddison and Elise, you can't fit both those guys and Kulusevski into your team.
No, not
at
at
the
all.
same
Very
time.
much, you'd be kind of using
just can't do
Elise
it.
as the cover for Kulusevski, essentially. And you reckon how much it would cost to get Elise?
It's not going to be cheap, that. I don't think
I don't
it's
think
be cheaper than Maddison.
I don't think it'd be as much as Maddison.
I don't think it
sure.
will be, because I think Leicester, if they go down, Maddison's fee, you lose all
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, but I don't think anyone is really going hard for Elise this
So I
summer
gave you guys
without Palace going
200
down, whereas I think Newcastle are going hard for Maddison.
I gave you guys 250 million.
So far, you spent
We
barely
spent
any, because you've been
32
taking
million
all
on a
threes.
goalkeeper. We spent 40 million on Kim. India is free, but obviously wages are going to be.
So you've only got
quite
130 million
significant.
Got
left.
about 170, 180 million.
170 million left. Okay, then make your decision.
Oh, the striker is going to be so big.
So what are we calling
Richarlison,
Elise's price tag? 45, 50?
Okay, let's say 45 then. I think
45
it's a bit
million
over.
plus.
How old is he?
105.
21.
It's tempting.
Let's take both.
Okay, so there goes 100 million pounds of the budget.
Yep.
105 mil. Tack that on.
Okay, add that
So we've
on.
spent 177 mil.
And we still haven't signed a Harry Kane replacement.
I've got enough space
We've
for
also got
one of
Richarlison there as
How
well. We
much
spent
have we got?
60 million on We spent 60 million on Richarlison. He needs to be playing next season, guys. If
We've got
if rid of Harry
73
Kane,
mil left in the
Richarlison
tank.
better be playing.
I
got a
do,
player
to
I
be
can
honest,
get in
forget that Richarlison is at the club.
Yeah. I've got a
Okay,
player who can play that.
so-
I've got two players that we can get for this.
Okay, so how much did we say we got left?
I cannot get both.
77 million.
77 million. I'd like to hear your forwards,
73 million.
please.
Okay, so I've got two options in the striker role that I
Same.
think are very... I don't think you need both of them, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, so I'm going to throw two names at you. I think the first is Jonathan David,
I also have Jonathan David.
who I think is a really good fit for Tottenham post Harry Kane,
Yeah.
in a slightly different mould, but we saw Fabrizio as well this week tweeting that they're going to be wanting around 60 million euros, Lille. They're not going to be getting Champions League football, it feels like this season, and he clearly is going to move on. He's had his best season in a Lille shirt, current top goal scorer alongside Kylian Mbappe in Liga, and his numbers are really impressive. So I think he is a very
Really
good shout.
impressive.
A really, really good shout. My second option is Rasmus Højlund
Everybody wants Rasmus.
Interesting.
at Atalanta. Yeah, everybody does want him, and there is a reason that everybody wants him. And he offers a different profile to Jonathan David, first and foremost. Because I was initially thinking here, let's go and do our arse on Evan Ferguson
I like, yeah.
At 18.
Yeah.
at 18. But I thought to myself, no, let's be sensible here. Let's look on the continent and let's try and find relatively similar profiles of player. You know, we're looking at Rasmus Højlund, 6'3", can play back to goal, can run the channels, extremely adept at ball carrying and with his feet in and around the box, an expert finisher from inside the box as well. We saw on his Denmark debut a hat-trick. I think he is absolutely destined for a major move this summer, and Atalanta paid 17 million euros to pick him up the previous year, so he will move this summer. Whether or not we're in the conversation for him
Yeah.
remains to be seen. I think we should be. So my two names are Højlund and Jonathan David.
So if you got Højlund,
Yeah.
he'd play up front and Richarlison would play on the left if Son is done.
Yes.
Because otherwise, the issue you have here is
We
that
had this
if you go and get a proper striker, the question is who kind of backs up Son. Are you going to have to play Son all the time, or you're going to play Richarlison off the left? Well, I don't think he's particularly effective.
So my thoughts are, if you have a left wing options of Son and Richarlison, forward options of a Højlund and Richarlison, and then on the right you've got Kulusevski, and that's why I said Elise,
Yeah.
or Maddison could potentially drift out there as well
Yeah.
now. Then you've got cover in multitude of positions and can play a number of different ways.
Yeah.
You can do the same with Jonathan David, to be honest with you, because he can also mix it in.
But my point is, I think David makes more sense from the point of view of being able to cover the left properly, the attack, like the striker position properly, even the hole properly.
Think about his physicality though,
That's my concern about him.
because he's small.
So he's not that short. I think he's
5'9".
5'10" and a half. Like,
Okay.
but he's my issue with him
He's
is,
slight, isn't he?
does he have the low center of gravity or the amazing feet or the burst? You have to have one of those. I was talking to Pete Dawn about this actually, where it's just like strikers who are small in the Premier League have to have an extra thing going for them.
Well,
So like Vardy, incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Gabriel Jesus, incredibly hardworking and combative. Aguero, just unbelievable feet and really low center of
So
gravity.
strong.
Like, Mo Salah, who often has kind of, I know he's a winger, but he has played centrally. That's really the aim, that you get him into central zones. Unbelievable centre of gravity, incredibly strong, and super fast.
And you think Jonathan David doesn't have?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. He might do.
Let's
He
not-
might turn up and he just has that ability, but he might turn up and he's just like an okay kind of rotation forward. So that's the question. But I put David down because I was thinking I was going to offer 2 forwards, and I thought David only really made sense if you also got the other forward.
Okay, who's
because
the
I
other
don't
forward?
think you can say David's our big like striker signing.
Who's the other forward for you?
I've got Tammy Abraham, which I think is like.
You love Tammy, man. You've loved him for
Tammy's a good
years,
striker.
man.
Well, I mean, he does
Yeah, but
actually have
how
a track
much is he
record, unlike the
costing,
guys
man?
that you're talking about.
He's a lot of money.
Probably 60
Well,
mil.
when was the last time Tammy scored 20 goals in a league campaign?
When's the last time Hoyland did that?
Well, it's his first breakthrough season.
Exactly, that's my point.
Jonathan David's put up 20 this season.
In Liga. Tammy Abraham did it in the Championship about 4 years ago, but after that, I think he got 18, 19 for
Yeah,
Chelsea
He got
in the
15,
first
he got
season
15
there.
in the Premier League
Yeah.
in his first season for Chelsea.
And
Why
what-
did you bin him?
Well, I'm Daniel
Because
Levy.
because they're stupid and because they decided that they wanted to go and get Lukaku and Havertz.
Yeah.
I'm Daniel Levy.
I
thank
like
you.
Tammy as well, man.
I
but
don't.
it's
I don't think it's a perfect move.
So
but like,
Tammy,
tell
I
me
know,
who the
has-
striker
I
options
like
are in
Tammy, but
Europe
it's
right
an
now.
80 million euro release clause,
Chelsea,
buyback clause for Chelsea,
yeah.
which means that he's going to be going for 80 million euros. They're not going to sell him for less than the buyback clause.
And we've got 73.
I don't know actually. I do think you could probably get him off Roma for about 60 mil.
And it's
Like,
80 because
Roma will take it.
obviously Roma paid 40 to Chelsea for him. So essentially Chelsea are paying 40 to get him back.
Yeah, but then why would you? Let's say we come in at 60. Why would Chelsea not just pay the 40, get him back, and then
because
sell
I
him?
because I think
Yeah.
I think Chelsea. Well, they might not be able to do that. Like
Yeah,
sometimes
true.
the release clauses don't
Yeah.
actually allow you to do that.
It's true.
But I think that Chelsea will not go back in for him anyway. Like he's a rare player
Knows the
in
Premier
that
League.
his appeal to a team like Spurs is much greater than it is to
Did I
almost
just hear you
anybody
whisper?
else.
He knows the Premier League.
No, it's, but on
He's
an actual.
performed
but
in the
he's
Premier League.
You know in the Premier
but he's
League.
performed in the
He
Premier
has
League.
performed in the Premier
And the
League.
season when he didn't, he wasn't the starting striker.
And he actually did. He still
Yeah.
ended up with like a very good kind of goals to game
I
ratio.
think if we
He's been at
replaced
0.5 goals a
Harry
game.
Kane
with Tammy Abraham, the fans would
you
be
don't- but you're not-
rioting at the Tottenham Hotspur
What? But you
Stadium.
think
I
if
also
you replace
don't
him
know
with
whether-
Rasmus Højlund, where you're like, oh, don't worry, guys, we went to Lidl and we asked them what the closest thing was they had to Erling Haaland, and they found this. Like, how does that feel? Like, and I think we agree that we're not doing that, right? Like, I think if you said we're getting Tammy Abraham, but we're also getting James Maddison, that's your sell
He's
to the fans.
It's kind of
That's
what they
why I
did.
said Maddison, because I'm like, Maddison
Yeah, it's a big
sugars
seller.
the pill. Because
Yeah.
let's be honest, the striker market for a team like Spurs is horrible. This summer, Osimhen's the only real kind of like superstar available, and he's certainly not going to
And Harry Kane.
Spurs. Harry Kane, but Harry Kane
He's already at the
is
club.
old, injured, overpaid,
He's not
overvalued.
injured. We need to change this narrative about
No,
Harry
but
Kane.
he does have
He's
injury
gone-
issues that are going to come back.
But he's got his last 3 seasons. He's gone 32 starts, 35 starts, 36 starts in the league.
But he has injury issues in the past, and the fact he's played a lot over the course of the
I
last
feel like
9
he's got
years
over the injury
makes
issues.
me concerned about him. He also didn't have a good scoring campaign last season. I don't know. I just look at
Only by his own standards.
but I look at Kane and I just think this is a time bomb, and he's hugely overvalued. So it's a perfect time to sell him.
We've already sold him. Enough
So-
about, enough about Kane.
But this is the thing. Like, I look around and I'm thinking,
Well, you signed Elise and Maddison.
yeah, I think that was your mistake.
Classic.
But I think like
decision making.
but like David, you know, I really like David, but David could turn up and just be like not good in the Premier League. Abraham, his floor is still a pretty good Premier League striker, especially when he's got Kulusevski, Elise, Maddison, Richarlison around him.
Respect on Højlund's name.
Maybe, but you've got to have
To be
some
honest-
sort of like base level production in the meantime.
If we went out there and got Evan Ferguson, nobody would be batting. Everybody would be going Buzz.
yeah, but he also could be a bust.
Yeah, but everybody could be a bust. I think-
Evan Ferguson.
There's significantly more bust
After
potential
spending-
on some guys than on others.
After spending the 60 million on Richarlison next season, he needs to be featuring this season.
Yeah.
And he's
gonna
Everybody's
play-
fine,
but-
though.
like
Everybody's
realistically,
fine, though.
he's
And
the
if,
guy that's.
and
going
if you
to play.
sign Højlund, David,
Yeah.
Abraham, Ferguson, whatever, and Son's in such good form and Richarlison's in such good form that those
Yeah.
guys are benched, no one minds. That is a
Yeah.
fine problem to have. Like, having more than one forward in form is something Spurs could really do
Yeah.
because it almost never happens
After-
for them.
yeah, after
I don't really mind what you do here. I do think that Maddison and Elise was a bit of a mistake on your part, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I do.
But I don't think you can go and buy two of your forwards if I didn't get Elise.
Why can you not go and buy?
Of course you could. You could
Because
get,
how are you gonna
you could
get-
get
because how are
David
you
and
gonna
any
please-
one of the
no,
other
because
forwards if
how
you
you-
don't get
Then how are you
Elise.
going to please Richarlison, David, and I don't know Rasmus Haaland?
That's
Like,
on your
how-
coach. That's Thomas Frank's job.
What do you mean?
No, because then it's my issue again. It's my issue again when fans are going there. Oh, why have we gone and bought
Okay,
this?
so how are you
this-
appeasing-
this
Fans
How are
never
you
do
appeasing
that.
Michael
Fans
Olise?
don't care about that.
rotation? He can rotate on that right side massively. Whereas the second you go,
But
and
you
get,
don't want to rotate
Lapsey.
him for Kulusevski. Kulusevski's your best player.
okay
Post Kane,
but
Kulusevski's your
also,
best player.
Kulusevski can't play in every single competition we're in.
So this is
What
what we're
comp-
saying.
what,
So you're
the
just
Premier
making
League?
your argument for us.
No, because how if we've then got Richarlison in and we've got Jonathan David in and we've got Højlund.
What's the difference between
all of them want to play up front.
Okay, but you're but you're.
Jonathan David can also
Yeah,
drift.
I think that's
Yeah,
fine.
but
I think Richarlison's happy to play on the left. I think David's happy to play on the
Okay.
left.
I don't think Richarlison is too happy to play on the left, to be quite honest.
I think
guys.
he- well, I
his-
think
his
he will
better-
be,
his
or-
other
This is the
position-
problem we
Well,
have.
he
his
will
other
be, or he'll
position
get.
to play on the left.
Yeah, but then
is
our
fine.
job is like, oh well, one of the players might throw his toys out the pram. If you don't play him where he wants. That's like tough titty. Get out of the team. Don't care. Like there's something that needs to be done.
This
here.
is the problem,
What you
man.
don't want is a situation where all your players are in form. And you just can't play some of them together because they can only play in one position, basically. Like that is a bit of a concern.
This is the
So
indecisiveness.
who's
you
it's
want
cost
these
you.
signings to be
because
able to
who's-
all play. if
Okay,
it
so
works.
when Kulusevski isn't in form or
Yeah.
is injured,
Yeah.
who's playing on the right?
Well, I think David or Richarlison
David,
could feasibly
Richarlison.
fit in there.
Richarlison's hated playing on the right this season. Literally said it's the season he's ever had and has never wants to do it.
That wasn't specifically in reference to playing in that position. That was in reference to the fact that he's been in and out the side. He hasn't scored in the Premier League because he's crap. His manager
And Antonio
hates
Conte
him.
was throwing him under the bus.
Like,
Let's be real though. You've made the decision now. You've had Madison and you've had Elise. So
Send
who,
him
which
back.
of the strikers
we can
do you
change,
have?
we can
yeah,
change
so
our
what?
money
Yeah, so,
around.
no,
we
now
don't
you've
have
put,
to go for Elise.
No, but now
Yeah.
you've put yourself in a situation. Like the whole point is, I would only recommend David if you are also getting another forward, and I think that's Joe's position as well.
Yeah,
like David
that's
is
what
a
I've said.
if like you think saying Tammy Abraham's our Kane replacement is going to be a problem. Wait till you say, don't worry guys, we've got a 23-year-old Canadian kid from Ligue 1 who's going to start up front instead of Harry Kane, your homegrown superstar, one of the best strikers in the world. They will lose their minds. So I think you have to do something here to appease the fans, and also a gesture towards building a coherent attack.
And is your gesture just only at Tammy at 80 mil?
I only really wanted Tammy and David. Like I don't really.
So how much is David costing us?
65 million.
No way.
So even if we hadn't got Elise, we can't afford to do
Jesus.
all these things.
You know what? Well, okay, but how much is Evan Ferguson costing us?
Oh, I don't think we can
400
go,
million?
I don't think we can go for Evan Ferguson. Like I think Evan Ferguson.
How much is Højlund
Evan
going to
Ferguson
cost
staying at
us in
Brighton.
your estimation?
I think Atlanta aren't going to get in the Champions League. They're going to need the money. I
Need
think
for a wait.
40, 50.
That's still a lot of money.
I don't think that's a lot of money for it.
Okay, but if you get Højlund, then
He's
you're
an
saying
excellent.
Richarlison will play up front if Højlund's injured. But so then you're
Richarlison-
looking at Richarlison, Son on the left. You're looking at Madison, Elise in the middle. You're looking at Elise, Kulusevski on the right, and you're looking at Højlund, Richarlison up front.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good attack.
I don't mind.
I'm fine with that.
So we've come round 360 to now Højlund being the guy.
Quite an inexperienced attack.
Front line,
I
but we've
will
got
say.
like I think you're like next season they're highly banking on Richarlison. Like I know we've done this. Wouldn't shock me if they don't.
You know
and
when
they are banking.
But you
on
know when
Richarlison being
Richarlison's
the
been
guy.
really good playing up front.
Yeah, yeah, literally. Yeah,
So if you don't
literally.
do it, like I mean, you could actually. I wouldn't be surprised actually if Son ages into a centre forward for them. You could play Son centre forward in some games, and actually he's had some pretty good games there.
And having
So
creativity
despite
on
the
the
fact
left
me and
is
Pat
pretty
both
good.
brought Jonathan David to the table, you go Højlund.
Yeah. I don't even know if I really want to go Højlund, to be honest.
I would
Like,
but
I
would
think
you-
I'd be closer to going like Højlund is so good, but it's like you just don't know yet.
But
It's
if
his
you're-
first season, you don't know yet.
If your strikers were injured, would you want to play David as a centre forward for like 15 Premier League games in a row, or Højlund?
Højlund.
Exactly. I think same.
I'm happy to go Højlund. I'm
There's
just
also something
worried that
in
we've
the-
only
there's
seen
a
also-
one.
presence. You need a
Amongst the
presence.
fans, there's something in the,
we've got
in the
the
unknown.
excite-
We've got
yeah,
the next
yeah.
guy off the rank.
You know who else they had that with? Soldado.
No, he was not the next guy off the rank when they
No,
signed him.
Soldado was like, this guy
pretty
is
exciting.
He
a
was-
proven
Goal scorer in Spain.
Spanish
Yeah.
goal scorer.
Look.
Like it's.
Let's go.
And it's not like he's 18,
Let's
you
go
know,
with
he's 20.
Rasmus.
What's going on with Troy Parrott? Is he about?
Had a
Get
right
me.
season, I
So,
think.
what's happened here,
Dane
Daniel?
Scarlett's at Portsmouth.
Summarise for us, Daniel.
I'll
Who-
be
who have we
honest, I'm
signed?
not very fearful. of Spurs next season.
Yeah, so
guys.
summarise.
I'm taking your options here, lads.
In an incoherent way.
Summarise which ones you've chosen.
Okay, so
You've
in goal,
fence sat your way to
So-
8th.
as our manager, we have brought in Thomas Frank.
Brentford's manager.
Big signing.
Manager.
Huge signing.
Their goalkeeper,
Brentford's goalkeeper.
we have taken.
Yeah.
At the back,
But what's your argument here? It's like,
yeah, they've
I
been
don't
good.
understand. Like Arsenal, who's their goalkeeper? Like, oh, they went and got Tomiyasu from Italy. Like, I mean, there are a bunch of guys you could say, oh, look at his previous club. What an embarrassing
I'm saying,
signing. It's like, and now we're like
I'm
top
not
of the
saying they're
league.
embarrassing signings. I'm saying the attempt to appease the fans with the sale of Harry Kane by signing
You know what will appease the
Brentford's
fans? Getting
keeper,
back into the Champions League.
Leicester's midfielder,
But these are all fine because-
Palace's winger.
Yeah, but you're not. You're appeasing the fans by saying we've invested £250 million.
What do you want to do? Go
And
buy
we've got James Maddison, who
Rashford.
we nicked from a Champions League side. Newcastle wanted him, but we went and got him. We've got some random guy like who sounds a bit like Haaland, like he's going to play up front
Hoyland,
for us.
Madison, Elise. Who was
Yeah.
the back?
Elise, I think
Kim
they'd be
and
excited
Ndidi.
about. Kim and Ndidi.
Kim would be sensational.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, we've got this from a team that have won the Scudetto.
Yeah,
And also,
And
I think the
Ryan
Spurs fans in general will be looking at this as like they're trying to build something here. This is the whole thing they've been wanting. They've tried to do this thing with the winning managers and buying the older players, and it's not worked.
And I do, and again,
What's the average age of them signings? It'll be quite young.
Raya
probably about
27,
27,
Matters is
27,
27.
23. How old is Kim?
26.
26. Madison's 26. Who else did we get?
Rasmus
Elise's
is
21.
20.
And Rasmus.
Rasmus
and
20. So probably about 23, 24.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Frank's rubbing his ass.
And I do think at a certain point you've got to say to Spurs fans, no offense, guys, but you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I mean, obviously neither does Daniel. Like, he has no
Neither do
idea.
I.
He has no idea what's happening. He's like Mourinho. He's a proven winner 50 years ago. Like, you do just need to say to them, guys, some patience is going to be required here. We're going to get a new coach in. We're going to be bedding in a bunch of young players, but give us half a season, and then you can start to criticise.
And with the guys that are coming back from loan,
Look
as you
at United
mentioned, like
this season.
hopefully get more from Basuma as well in midfield. Like there is a squad there for whatever new manager
Hopefully
coming in.
Bassuma's, like you said, not as
Like for a new manager coming in, like and obviously if they
I
make
think
these
Sar's really exciting.
Porro,
Porro's
Sar,
exciting,
like, if they make these kind of
Itoje.
signings as well, then a new manager really, like if they do sell Harry Kane.
Where does that team finish then?
They're better than they are now, probably.
Arsenal obviously super strong, City super strong. Liverpool aren't going to be as bad next year. You'd like to fucking think Chelsea.
There's
won't.
always somebody that falls apart though.
I think they'll be around. I think they'll be
Newcastle's
around
gonna be
fifth,
tough.
sixth, like they are now. But at least they've got a squad which you'd hope over the next 2-3 years would get
Yeah.
better rather than worse.
And at least it'll be playing football that is.
This is the big thing as well.
And they'll add more signings. You know, like then you go the next summer and you're like, okay, maybe we need another centre back, or maybe actually now Richarlison is playing centre forward, and we go and get like a lights out left winger. Like
maybe
you
is
go
getting on now.
and you go and kind of
Yeah.
develop it. But I think this is a good base, and this is what I mean when you've got to say to the fans, sorry, but shut up. You have to say to them, we may finish 7th this season, but the aim is then we can finish 5th, and then we can finish 2nd, and then we're competing.
And what would be the starting 11 here? We're going Raya,
Porro,
Romero, Kim, and Dicker, and
Yeah.
Doji.
Yeah.
And then
Midfield,
Everyone fit.
Basuma and
probably
Bentancur.
Basuma, Bentancur.
Yeah, like if the new manager, because we know the talent Basuma has, if the new manager can get something out of him properly, then he'd be starting for sure.
Basuma and Bentancur. Kulusevski.
Kulusevski right wing,
Richarlison.
No,
and Son.
we need to get Maddison there.
But that's fine. You could play,
Yeah, Madders
but
play
you
in
can
midfield.
drop one of your midfielders and play
Yeah.
Maddison in the midfield
Yeah.
because you've got 5 at the back.
Bentancur and Maddison.
Or you could play a 4 at the
Basuma,
back.
Madders.
You know, you could actually play a 4 at the back with this squad.
Yeah, you
It'd be
could.
totally fine.
You could drop one of that. You could drop an Indica, play Madison in a 4-2-3-1, play Kim and Romero at centre back. Super aggressive and
Super aggressive.
stepping
How
out the
many
line.
yeah.
Okay,
Few yellow cards there.
there we go. Happy with that, Daniel?
We'll see.
I'm
We'll
not
see.
particularly happy with Daniel Levy's performance on this podcast. Has
I
there ever
know.
been a more
Disgraceful.
indecisive sporting director? I'm not too sure. Tottenham fans, we want to hear from you guys at home. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of our suggestions, who you would have suggested. Also, follow us on Twitter, because at the end of this week, next week, we'll be putting out a tweet asking for what you want us to talk about. Anything else to plug?
Is that it, mate?
No, that's it. See you later.